A lot of guys often ask me, Wheat, who are the ideal women to date? And where can I find one? Well, in this video I believe I have the answer. About a year ago I released this video, 130,000 views and counting. In this I broke down the trade-off between the importance of looks and game and how much you need of each to be successful in the dating market as a man. Well, today I'm going to be doing the exact same, but this time doing the chart for women. So without further ado, let's get this started. Like the men's graph, there are two axes. The x-axis is the same, which is the 1 to 10 rating scale for looks. There's not much explanation needed here because you should all know what the various ratings mean by now. And even if you're not an avid follower of my channel, chances are you still would have heard guys talking about rating women's looks out of 10 in your day-to-day life. So that's the x-axis. As for the y-axis, this is different to the men's and takes a little more explaining. I've labelled it as purity. In my opinion, this encompasses a variety of factors, with some of the main points being, but not limited to, 1. A low partner count, 2. Never cheated in any previous relationships, 3. No history of illicit substance use, 4. Not lazy, 5. Not entitled, 6. No children in the picture, 7. No social media vanity, 8. Linking into this, no risque posts on social media, 9. Financially independent, 10. Has a good relationship with her parents, and finally 11. Most of these factors will also take into account her age as well. For example, I think most people would agree it's more concerning if a woman who's 18 has a partner count of 10 than a woman who's 25 having a count of 15. So, all of these fall under the umbrella of purity. And I believe missing just 1 or 2 can automatically mean a woman gets a purity rating of less than 5, or what a lot of people colloquially refer to as red flags. Anyway, now you understand the graph, I'm going to start dividing the chart into different categories, for which there are 4 distinct zones. The first line to be drawn goes straight down the middle and splits this graph into 2. On the left are women below a 5 in attractiveness. On the right are women above a 5. The purpose of this line is to create an important distinction between what men do and do not find physically attractive. Now, of course, as some of you may correctly be thinking right now, it is possible some guys may find women to the left of this line as somewhat attractive. Hence why in various Tinder experiments on YouTube, when people create fake profiles of unattractive women, they still get hundreds of matches and dozens of guys offering for meetups. However, this line of division is still important because I think it goes without saying that the guys approaching women over here are acting out of pure desperation at this point. I'd say unless the guy is really unattractive himself, it's extremely unlikely he'll approach one of these women with seriousness and a desire of taking things further. To put it simply, think the distinguishing factor this line makes is that most guys won't want to be seen out in public with anyone this side of the line. So, this is the main line I have of the chart. However, on this side there is one more line splitting this section again into 2. The purpose of this line is that it serves as an explanation for the point touched upon a minute ago, where desperate guys message unattractive women on Tinder. I wasn't 100% sure where to draw this, but my guess is it falls somewhere between the 3 to 4 mark. Anyway, this creates our first 2 zones. Zone 1 to the left is what guys might say, never in a lifetime, keeping things respectful. Meanwhile, for the second category, this zone might be referred to as one time and one time only. Anyway, first diving a little deeper into zone 1. I'd say it's unfortunate for the women here, as they aren't able to generate any positive emotions from guys or feelings of physical attraction. This might be referred to as the femcel zone for women. Now, I know a few members of my audience might dispute the existence of this category, but I'm pretty sure just about every guy can agree. They know of some women out there they wouldn't desire even if they were paid. However, with this said, I won't deny the population of this category is small. Less than 2% say. In contrast, taking a look at the adjacent zone, I'd say this makes up roughly 20% of the population. And an interesting point for this zone is it's arguable the women here actually have it worse than the women in Zone 1. For women in this category, they may be considered just attractive enough to have guys offering to come over on dating apps, or similarly have heavily intoxicated men approach them at a club. But besides these two things, this is where the road ends. Women who fall in this category will next to never have a man who's a 5 or above ever offering any form of commitment, whether that's short term or long term. And if a man does go with a woman here for one night, he'll do his best to deny it to his friends. He'll sweep it under the rug and basically pretend like it never happened. A couple of other common occurrences are the man unmatching or blocking as soon as he's on his way out, the man feeling an immediate sense of regret and disgust afterwards, and, as touched upon earlier, the man avoiding the possibilities of being seen out in public with her at all costs. So, that's it for the first two categories. If you've enjoyed the first half of this video, now is a good time to press the like button and leave your thoughts in the comments below, as it helps the YouTube algorithm. Now carrying on to the right hand side of the graph. Like the left, there is one more line to be drawn on the chart, which is this line here. A slight downward slant going from about a 7 purity to 5. This forms the final two sections. The one above is relationship material, meaning women that guys will happily date for the long term and freely give their commitment. Then the category beneath is short-term dating, or FWB. Starting with short-term, this category encompasses a rather large area and indicates the group of women that guys do find physically attractive enough to date, but due to them lacking certain qualities like the ones I pointed out earlier, most men are cautious and hesitant of committing to them for the long term. Now, some of you might be thinking, what is the purpose of the slope? Why is it the more attractive the girl is, the less purity she needs to be seen worthy of commitment? Well, the reason is because most guys will give a little bit of leeway for women that are highly attractive. The halo effect is partially at play here, which is when people subconsciously associate positive qualities to good-looking people and negative qualities to unattractive people. However, I also think there is some rational thinking going on as well. If I personally were to date an average attractiveness woman, for me to see things going long-term with her, I'd want to see her carrying lots of other great qualities and values too. Meanwhile, if a woman is extremely attractive, as long as she's middle of the road in other areas, I'd still see her as date-worthy. Some of my audience might class this as simping, as I'm giving special treatment for more attractive women, but I think it's just a case of human nature. No one is denying men care about looks and would prefer to date a more attractive woman, providing it doesn't lead to a mismatch in power, which I've talked about in previous videos. I'll put it this way. If you had the choice of dating either a 5 out of 10 woman or a 7 out of 10 woman and they both had the exact same levels of purity, guys would choose a 7 out of 10 woman every single time. Another point for why the line is drawn like this is because notice how no part of the long-term relationship section dips below a 5 in terms of purity. Guys, you must understand this. No matter how attractive a woman is, if she's below a 5 in terms of purity, you cannot go into a long-term relationship with her. It always backfires. For example, say she's cheated on previous partners. Who's to say there's nothing to stop her doing the exact same thing to you? When guys choose to date women because they're attractive, while simultaneously turning a completely blind eye to clear and obvious red flags, this is one of the purest forms of simping possible. This is why the cutoff line is so important, and shows why you mustn't ever jeopardize on what you know isn't acceptable just because a woman is attractive. I'm going to make two more quick points before moving on to the scattered distributions onto this chart. 1. Notice how for women below a 5 in attractiveness, their purity means literally nothing in terms of changing their dating life. This is why you see so many unattractive women who are promiscuous. because they're not looking for an intelligent guy who is aware of the risks of committing to her. Rather, she's seeing as many guys as possible, knowing most of them will run, and she's banking on one sucker who ignores all the mistakes she's made in her past and eludes himself into thinking he's lucky to be getting in a relationship with her. The second point to make, which is in contrast to the first, notice how purity for women above a 5 in attractiveness really can go a long way in terms of her ability to get the relationship she wants. I often hear women complain saying guys only care about looks. But if I'm honest, in today's day and age, it is purity that is rarer and thus more sought after by guys in the dating market. Nowadays, attractive women are 2 a penny. I see them all the time. On the flip side, how many women out there hold good relationship building values? My answer is not that many. This is why for the last part of the video, I'm going to show where I believe most women place on the chart, i.e. where I believe the highest concentrations are across both scales. I think it looks something like this. So in terms of attractiveness, most women fall around the middle, implying there are more 5s, 6s and 7s around compared with either 8s and 9s or 2s and 3s. I actually think the average woman is closer to a 6 than a 5, so I've skewed the average slightly to the right. That's my experience, and in fact, pretty much the only women I see on a day-to-day that are below a 5 are just overweight and not much else. I believe it's very unlikely for a woman who's young, in good shape, and has decent makeup to be below a 5. Now taking a look at purity. And unfortunately, I think this has gotten very bad recently. In the last video, I provided data to show the average 18 to 24-year-old woman now has a partner count of 5, which is at its highest levels compared to any previous generations. What's more is the women that are higher up in the chart, the women that are more desirable for long term, a lot of them will already be paired off in long-term relationships. So when you just look at the available dating market, I'd say the picture looks even less ideal. Therefore, as of now and what's becoming ever more so in the future, I think there will only be slimmer and slimmer pickings in the dating market. Anyway, that's all the points for the video. If you enjoyed watching, make sure you press the like button and leave any thoughts you have in the comments below, as it helps the YouTube algorithm.